The issue of human privacy. Experts warn that there could be privacy risks with brain implants, especially if they are connected to the cloud or to AI systems. While Neuralink may seem scary, there are also some positive developments in the field of neurotechnology. There have been some remarkable achievements made by other companies, such as a tiny deep brain stimulation device that reversed the symptoms of a Parkinson's patient in Bristol, or a permanent brain implant that allowed a severely paralyzed patient with ALS to communicate telepathically. These are examples of how neurotechnology can help people with disabilities or diseases to improve their quality of life. Neuralink is a technology that could revolutionize the way we interact with machines, with AI, and with each other. It is a technology that could offer us new possibilities, new opportunities, and new challenges. It is a technology that could help us overcome some of the limitations or problems that we face as humans or as a society. But it is also a technology that could pose some risks or threats to our privacy, our identity, our dignity, or our humanity. It is a technology that raises many questions that we need to think about and to answer before we embrace it. Neuralink is a technology that could change the world, but are we ready for it?
Talks about this startup of Neuralink and how they have their first patient implanted with a chip using his mind to play on aligned chess. Who's the person? His name is Nolan Arbaugh or Arbo. All right. The 29-year-old patient who was paralyzed below the shoulder after a diving accident played chess on his laptop with the cursor using the Neuralink device. The implant seeks to enable people to control a computer cursor or keyboard using only their thoughts. What does that basically mean? Like freaking telepathy to a sense? I mean, if you really think about it. Now, a lot of things that seem like they're science fiction being confirmed. Absolutely crazy, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this with you guys. And I'm going to take you to this. And basically speaking, I'm going to go ahead and you're going to hear from this the actual patient, if you will. Okay? Let's go ahead and share this. Here we go.
Obviously, the first person with the Neuralink implant. Thank you. It's been a wild ride. I think more than anything, I'm just impressed with all the work y'all have done. I mean, I did very little. I let them, cut open my skull and put something in my brain, and that's about it. I was asleep for all of it, so it was super easy. Y'all have been doing work for years, and I'm just so impressed with everyone I've met. And I don't know, it's amazing. It's amazing being able to tour everything and see, behind the scenes. It's fantastic. I can't express enough how awesome all of y'all are and how much this is going to change the world. I mean, I can already see it. It's been a month. I think a month was like 2 days ago. And how much my life has changed and how much it's improved, not just my life, but the implant and the work that y'all are doing. It's been fantastic. And I can only imagine where this is going to go. And y'all are really doing just the coolest thing in the world. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I feel so blessed to be a part of it. Like I said, I didn't do a whole lot to get selected. I just happened to align with everything that y'all wanted, that the study wanted. And really it was luck, basically. And at any point today, if y'all want to come talk to me, please come on up. I am basically like all of y'all, just with a bit of hardware in my skull, a bit more compute power, and that's about it. So come on up, say hi. I'll ask you about how you got into this because I'm fascinated to hear all of your origin stories, is what I've been calling it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Good work, everyone.
So Nolan is a very impressive person, but I want to take just one moment before bragging on his behalf about all the work that he's done over the past month to also acknowledge his mother, his father, and his friend here in the front row. I've spent probably 8 hours a day plus at their home the last sort of month-ish. And I just want to acknowledge that none of this would happen without them. I mean, literally none of it. And it's a team effort the whole way. So just if I could have one round of applause for Nolan, but also the family. Yeah, and then I want to just talk briefly. It's sort of an impossible task to try to summarize the quantity of data and the impact that Nolan and his family have had over the last month, not just on Neuralink. I want to be clear, not just on Neuralink, but on the entire industry and what it means for the field in general. So I have a pretty impossible job of trying to summarize with a few statistics what that looks like, just to give you a sense of the kind of crazy, absurd amount of data and progress that we've made in the last month. So the first is we've done literally only 12 BCI sessions so far. We've done 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And for those of you who have worked in this field before, you know that this is not the usual thing to happen. If you have experience with BrainGate or previous clinical trials, it's typically a couple days a week for a couple hours. And by Monday morning, at usually around 11 a.m., we've usually surpassed what the normal is in terms of data collection for a week. The second thing I want to acknowledge is the amount of learning that we've taken away from those sessions. And so if you look at the next bullet point there, I asked Sammy to compute this, 271 pages of notes over those 12 BCI sessions. And it's to the degree that Google Docs actually doesn't load that document anymore. And we had to start splitting it up day by day. And it's actually not just about, it just wouldn't happen with anyone. I want to emphasize that. Nolan has a very unique ability to give us useful comments on what needs to change to make our product better. His parents, his friends have given us similar comments. And these are pages of notes on what we need to change to make it better going forward. This is invaluable data.
You heard the gentleman on the right, so the left of him, but the right of the stage, okay? He mentioned specifically a thing called BCI. Listen to this part, okay? So I want to pull this up in that regard, and let's take a look into this for a second. For all people that don't know what Neuralink does, I'm going to go ahead and share this for a second. So basically, anybody can do a simple search, right? But as you can see here, it talks about Neuralink, neurotechnology company founded by Elon Musk, that's building an implantable brain-computer interface capable of translating thought in the course to action. Launched in 2016, private venture claims its neural device will help people, for example, like this particular person, right, paraplegic, to regain movement, restore vision. What can it cure? It can enable those with spinal cord injuries to move their limbs. It can effectively cure paralysis, blindness, mental illness, neurological conditions such as like what my dad had, Alzheimer's and so on. How much does the implant cost? Costs about $10,500 in exams, parts, and labor. Cost insurers, the cost to insurers is expected to push the price to $50,000. Actual price could easily run higher if the cost necessary of components, procedures, and so on rise. So there's a lot of stuff about this, right? And, a lot of people are obviously paying attention to it. When you get more into this whole thing about Neuralink, and understand that interview, it's this part. Now, if you're wondering about the whole thing, obviously what we're talking about, Jasmy, January 29th, 2024, Musk said that Neuralink has successfully implanted a brain-computer interface, BCI, device, that the company named telepathy in a human on the day prior. All right, and it talks about that patient. Look at this for a second. BCI, the disc, like what does Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chip do? It would register brain activity, send it over a device such as a smartphone through a common Bluetooth connection. The first product, called telepathy, literally called that, will allow people to control their phones or the computers just by thinking. Literally, like, you can understand why they call it telepathy. When you get further into the whole thing, like that guy was talking about next to the patient, that we shared the video about. BCI is an invasive process, requires surgery to implant the electrodes into the scalp for communicating brain signals. Main advantage is to provide more accurate reading. However, downside includes side effects of the surgery, scar tissue, make brain signals weaker. How is it used? BCI. Brain-computer interfaces enable humans to control machines with their minds by using electrical sensors to create a direction connection between a brain's neurons and external machine. BCIs can be either directly attached to the brain tissue through surgery or placed on a user's head in the form of a wearable device. Huh. All right. Let me show you this for a second. So when I got more into this whole thing, I saw some more information that's definitely worth pointing out. Okay. And so basically, my thing is like getting more into, I guess you could say more of the nitty gritty, as I would always say. I know some of you guys are talking about that, right? So, let's take you over to a little bit more about Tadashi Morita. So he has this abstract about electronical apparatus information processing method in a program. He talks about this whole thing of having an invention that relates to electronic apparatus information processing method. Program that will allow for provision server of an application to be capable and easily causing an electronic apparatus having an IC chip to manage the data when a service issuing commands transmitted from a service issuing terminal 11 is received. You will see a little bit more about this, and it goes on to mention that there's a function, an IC card, back to like what we talked about with Taro Kono, information indicating a service data structure and the sequences, on and on, right? Service data structure, managing all this, provisions, but says that the present invention can be applied to an apparatus having an IC chip. And of course, there's the patents, like we pointed out before, and how, this dates back quite a bit. Sony, though, obviously. You see, for example, Morita cited there. It's dated all the way back to 2014 in regards to this patent. And it gives a whole full breakdown of some of this stuff. Now I get it. Some of you guys will say, well, what the heck does this have to do with medical? So remember how we talked about that ISO standard? Well, do you know that standard is part of all of these particular things here? And I really had to zoom in on this one, so I don't know how perfect it's going to be. And we mentioned that Tadashi Morita and those guys in regards to IEC, SYC, right? And we found that one particular standard that they're part of, right? Jumping into this, you will see back to the PDF. Let's pull this up. It mentions some of these things that fall under that umbrella, if you will. All right. So there's this, which is ISO IEC NP 3532-2. And what does it mention? It mentions specifically information technology, 3D printing, scanning, medical image based modeling. There's that, right? And I understand. We're going to get into some of this good stuff here in a second. And it mentions this falls under the blanket of the ISO IEC JTC 1, working group 12. Okay. So many things follow under that particular umbrella. Okay. Getting into the next part of this for a second. Let's pull this up because this is written really tiny. I was trying to blow it up for you as much as I can. Okay. So we're going to pull up the next thing. Okay. And that is this right here. All right. So that's just part of the reference. All right, here we go. Boom. This is from another PDF about this ISO standard. Okay. So business plan for JTC 1. Remember, this is the ISO standard that we're talking about. ISO IEC JTC 1. You heard that literally, just in case you're tuning in, from the data, was it the Data Flow Alliance? Okay. So here it is. And I don't know if I zoom in any more on this because I don't want to necessarily lose my spot. Let me see if I can zoom in just a tad bit more. Okay, I'll highlight it and see if that will work. Hold on. Yes. All right. Just trying to make it nice for you guys so you can see it better, right? Okay. So let's jump up for a second. If you're wondering where the heck does this come from? This comes from ISO IEC JTC 1 N16476. Okay, so this is interesting. This business plan was written back in 2023. Okay, and basically it gets into some of these things. Well, what about the specifics? All right, well, look at this, guys. I'm telling you flat out, here's your connector. Based on the ISO IEC JTC1 AG16 and also JTC1 SC43, which was established at the ISO IEC JTC1 plenary holding back in 2021, the national body of China serves as the secretariat for JTC1 SC43. And you have these people that were part of this whole thing. I guess you could say witnesses to the whole thing of the standardization. All right, here's your aha moment. Standardization in the area of brain-computer interfaces for information technology to enable communication and interaction between brain and computers that are applicable across application areas. What's the focus? Well, JTC1's standardization program on brain-computer interfaces, including the development of foundational standards. Brain-computer interfaces, JTC1, IEC, ISO, and other entities developing applications of BCI. What about some of the standards for human implants? Again, back to the example why I shared that video with you, because that was literally Neuralink, was it not? And did that guy, guys, think about it, guys, did that guy next to the patient, the first patient to ever have a Neuralink hooked up in his head, didn't that guy specifically mention BCI? He did. That's why I was pointing out to you, and I watched the whole thing. Okay, so BCI, boom, BCI. See how we did that? Okay. Again, this would have flowed a lot more earlier or better, but again, I am working the best that I can to make this all come together because my research was rugged when my power went out. So, yeah, look at this, guys. The development, of foundational standards. Back to that data flow group, if you want to call them that, right? That working group. They reference this. And this references what? Brain-computer interfaces to JC1, IEC, ISO, and entities developing applications of BCI? My God. That's crazy. All right, let's jump a little bit more about this. It says there was this whole thing that was on March 23rd, 11 resolutions adopted in regards to those liaisons. But said remarkably, ISO IEC 8663 was approved for a new time frame. They have a reference architecture that was approved with some of these working groups. Okay, and it gets more into some of this stuff. Well, let me pull this up as well. Are you aware that the market size valued at 1.43 billion in regards to BCI technologies and products, and talks about significant growth in the research groups and new startups working on brain-computer interfaces. Now, I'm not saying that obviously Jasmy works on brain-computer interfaces specifically, but when we talk about Internet of Things and we talk about standards, do you understand the bigger picture about this? I think you do. I don't think you guys, look at this as like, rocket science or brain surgery. No pun intended. I mean, a little bit, right? So, as you can see, when we get more into the outline, you will see specifically about the whole thing of more about BCI and its technologies and the products. Look at this. Global BCI market size was valued at 1.43 billion in 2021 and anticipated to grow at a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 14.58% during the next decade. My God. Large technological companies, Meta, Google, and Kernel. Remember we talked about Kernel in regards to Stellar. I don't know if you guys paid attention to that particular part. But anyway, so those particular ones, government agencies, U.S. Department of Defense, and best known investors, example, Elon Musk. Boom, there you go again. Have shown massive industry in this burgeoning industry. Major drivers of BCI market include increasing prevalence of neuropsychiatric disorders. So we get more into the whole thing about BCI. It's all over this thing, and these trends and augmentation and so on and so forth, right? But again, your key takeaway should be how this all comes in together because of what? Because, like what we also mentioned, it's the ones that are part of the bigger picture. And when we jump back to this ISO standard, which obviously Jasmy could apply to, right? This is the main one. I mean, obviously, I mentioned that second one, but it's ISO, IEC, the main key ones, ISO, IEC, JTC 1. Okay. And when you look into it just for medical alone, because some of you guys are like, well, that's what I mainly want to know. You have at least 7 examples here in regards to medical image-based modeling, segmentation, general requirement, printing, the scanning. And look at this for a second. In vitro diagnostic medical devices, single-use receptacles for the collection of specimens other than blood from humans. That also falls under some of this, right? And then, hold on a second. Let's get more into some of this stuff. Recognizing everything that was listed back to this in regards to all the techniques and everything that's involved in regards to the technology, obviously the whole thing of data, and what's being collected in regards to some of that. Okay, sorry about that. Here is the other area I want to mention. So improve interoperability. Look at this for example. I'll read this whole thing. This is good stuff. Improve interoperability, important benefit of BCI standardization, increase interoperability between devices. BCI, different devices may need to work together. Look at that. To achieve a common goal. Standardized protocols can ensure different BCI devices can communicate effectively, work together, hence standards, allowing for more efficient and effective healthcare delivery. For example, and then boom, there's your example. ISO, IEC, JTC 1, right? And then also SC43 working groups are developing a standard for what? BCI system reference framework. Sorry about that. I had that bookmarked, but again, the power went out. It kind of times out everything and you lose your marks. And data structures. Look at this. Enable different BCI devices to work together seamlessly. Look at this. Brain control prosthetics, robots, where multiple BCI devices may be used to control different aspects of prosthetic. Standard protocols will allow components with a BCI system to properly exchange information, as well as enable BCI systems to communicate with other systems. What other systems? Think about that for a second. So that's big, right? And when we get more into some of this stuff, let's jump into the next part, what we have. Back to again, just in case you're not a believer about the whole thing of, I don't know, it's just coincidence. This standard, the ISO, IEC, JTC 1, information technology, brain computer interfaces, BCI data, format non-invasive brain information collection. Brain information collection. Is that your boil it, mash it, stick in a stew moment? I think it is. I really, really think it is. Okay? You just got to look more into it. Not everybody's going to look into it. I understand. We all have families. We all have so much time in their day. I get it. I went down the rabbit hole. I couldn't believe what I found. When we look at the bigger picture of things. So basically, was it 1 or 2 ISO standards? Maybe even more than that, right? Really, really big news in regards to Jasmy in that regard. And my God, I mean, the scope of this. I'll come back in the frame. I think there's like maybe 4 or 5 more examples. The document includes definition of basic data elements, technology-specific information, what? Metadata? Design, extensible, and modular data structure, specification of metadata and annotation information, development of standardized data format, naming convention for BCI data files. Remember how we talked about data sets? The valuation of medical data? That's why I provide you guys all the information. Even Investor Place, which I have a premium membership with them. They even cite Jasmy with medical data. I just thought that was, obviously a good thing to get into. Okay? There you have it, basically. And even back to the other example of that particular company that we talked about earlier, attending that particular conference that Haro is at. And what compliance are they? ISO 13485 2016, medical devices, quality management systems. More than interesting. So, guys, like I want to point out, do what you want with the information presented. I literally connected quite a few things. It's not that Neuralink will come out and say, we choose Jasmy. No, it's not about that. It's understanding who will collect the data. Because why? Because we have standards in place that say, you are the enabler to get this done because you meet compliance. So does Jasmy apply, for example, this particular ISO standard? Not necessarily, but how cool would it be if they chose to do so? So I will state this. Anybody that's watching in regards to if you were a Jasmy ambassador, you have connections. Speak to Hara. Speak to some of these guys, right? The big ups. Maybe they're more than aware that, of ISO standards. I shouldn't say maybe. We already talked about this before. Kunitaki Ando is definitely aware of an ISO standard because he is connected to a company that has an ISO standard. So we already understand that he gets it. But this specific ISO standard, wow, how big of a deal that is. And understanding that when we talk about data sets, there's obviously data sets that are going to be worth more than others. Say what you want, Jasmy with a personal data logger to collect that particular Neuralink type data, whether it happens or doesn't happen, the standards are put into place, and you already have a guy such as Tadashi Morita, who is what? An expert? Just in case you just connected one last time. Boom, here we go. Yes. IEC, SYC, low voltage DC expert. As in DC, like we point out in regards to microgrids and stuff like that. But IEC, SYC has that standard through ISO, and everything in reference to, boom, this again, BCI. Because BCI with Neuralink. And just in case you missed that, all that in regards to Neuralink actually is on this particular page. Look at this. How many times BCI is mentioned here? In that video we shared, again, it's all there. It's all there. Anybody who wants to verify it for themselves, I'm sure there will be a few flutters that will just, you could always tell who will take what's on the surface and go from there. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you can get two of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out though if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.